Good afternoon, and welcome. I'm meteorologist Damon Singleton, and on behalf of the NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, thank you for joining us. 28 years ago, our city faced its greatest test. Today, we're here to celebrate its incredible response. This conversation, Katrina 20, will focus on the story of our progress and the bright future we built together. This important discussion is made possible by the generous support of our sponsor, Entergy. We thank them for their deep commitment to powering our city and this community conversation. To explore this story, we are honored to have a panel of distinguished leaders who have been instrumental in this renaissance. And I'm going to ask them to identify themselves, give us your title, your company, or your organization.
Good afternoon, Damon. I'm Nyka Scott. I'm the Vice President of Customer Service and Economic Development for Entergy New Orleans.
Hi, I'm Emily Madero, and I'm the President and CEO of French Quarter Festivals, Inc.
Thanks.
Hi, Damon. I'm James Karst. I am the Communications Director at the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana.
Good afternoon. I'm Rebecca Dietz. I'm the President and CEO of City Park Conservancy.
Hello, I'm Bivian Sonny III. I'm founder, CEO of Son of a Saint.
Good afternoon, I'm Amanda Moulliet. I'm the Business Banking Manager for Hancock Whitney Bank.
Thank you, panelists. Okay, big picture, a city reimagined. And this is a question for all the panelists. Let's start with the view from 30,000 feet. From your unique vantage point, whether it's our cultural economy, our critical infrastructure, our coastline, or our next generation, what has been the single most profound and positive transformation you've witnessed in New Orleans since Katrina? Let's start with you.
I would have to say just the hyperscale of civic engagement, both at the city level, the community level, and for Entergy. After the storm, we lost the majority of our system. And we lost all of our customers. Our 1,900 employees had to be evacuated. And we had to file bankruptcy. And what we knew was that we could not put the cost of rebuilding our system on the back of our customers. So we pulled together a coalition of community leaders, the chamber, local, state, and governmental officials, and lobbied HUD for community development block grant money. And we got $200 million of that to rebuild our system so that customers didn't have to pay for it. Now, at the time, we were scattered in all of our operating companies across the country or across the Gulf South. And look, we had governors and mayors from all over the state saying, just relocate here. You don't have to deal with hurricanes anymore, which may have been a nice thing, but this is our home, and we loved it. And when we came back, and we just kept reinvesting in our city. And I think that decision was made in no small part because of the community that rallied around us and really helped us get that money. So the community engagement is really it for me.
Yeah, I came across several Entergy personnel who were working hard, and I was really impressed. Let's get your perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we'll probably talk more about the creative economy and the cultural sector later, but I think back about where I was post-Katrina, immediately after, and I was working with an organization called the Idea Village and really focused on fostering the entrepreneurial ecosystem and supporting small businesses. And it's kind of incredible to see some of those early seeds that we planted and how they're flourishing now. And I'll take a very concrete example of some of the strategic corridors that we invested in. If you look at Ferret Street or you look at Oak Street, Bayou Road, those were identified as areas that were critical to the fabric of neighborhoods, connected the city, had historical importance. And I went to Tulane, and I remember there wasn't a lot going on Ferret Street, at that time, but certainly it's incredible to see how it is flourishing now. So I think the health of our neighborhoods, the health of some of those corridors, those are definitely intentional investments made by a network of individuals, neighborhoods, businesses, and I think it's really a testament to the strength of the city.
Thank you. James.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, from my organization's perspective, obviously Katrina was a horrific disaster. Hundreds of people lost their lives, but it was also a moment when people really became galvanized around coastal restoration. And we really began to take it more seriously. The state agency, the Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, was formed. We began to develop what became ultimately our coastal master plans, which are like a 50-year blueprint for addressing coastal land loss and protecting what we have. And that is something that really began to take on a new life after Katrina. So it was something positive out of that tragedy. Additionally, we clearly strengthened our hurricane defenses within the city of New Orleans, our flood walls and our levees. Our hurricane damage risk reduction system is better than it has ever been. So, from that context, we are clearly better off than we were then.
All right. Emily?
So I think in the green space world, a positive transformation was a shift in thinking about how green space can serve climate resiliency. Intentional design and planning that came focusing on implementing bioswales, wetlands, lagoons, parking gardens, permeable pavement, things you see today and perhaps take advantage of weren't top of mind at the time. And all of those elements slow the movement of water and alleviate pressure on our conventional drainage systems, and allow parks to be the green sponges that they can be for our communities. And although that may not have been new age thinking at the time of Katrina, Katrina and our flood-prone city has to put a magnifying glass now and then on green spaces and how they can serve their community, the surrounding neighborhoods, by, again, holding water longer and alleviating the pressure on our conventional drainage, which that system is, while being improved and has been improved, like you said, over the last 20 years, is still not ideal, not where it needs to be. And so green spaces are now thought of as addendums to that.
Hey, Sonny.
Yes, I would say around that time, I was actually mentoring kids. I was mentoring boys. There was really one group in New Orleans at the time that was very prominent. Then Katrina hit, and we got displaced. I got displaced actually from my mentee as well. And coming back, it was hard to get back in, right, and identify young males to support. But I would say the biggest thing for me was being able and having the opportunity to develop a program like Sonny was saying, and have the community wrap their arms around our boys and our program and uplift it. And like you said earlier, the civic engagement and the nonprofits that have sparked and started since Katrina has been amazing, and a lot of collaboration has happened. And I think it's because of what we did post-Katrina.
All right. Rebecca.
So I think the influx of young people that we had come to the city to help us rebuild really played a huge impact on the city. They decided to stay, make New Orleans home. They helped us rebuild. They invested in communities that were damaged by Katrina and maybe were neglected before. They renovated those houses. They made them their homes. They sparked the entrepreneur focus that we have. We saw the introduction of co-working space, accelerator programs, and the beginning of this diverse economic, creation that we started at that time.
Good. Well, thank you all very much for that. We've got some targeted questions now. And Nyka, you're first up.
All right.
The pillars of progress. So how has Entergy's approach to creating a more resilient, smarter energy grid helped fuel the economic development and confidence we see in New Orleans today?
So we have created a stronger grid and a smarter grid. So we're in the middle of phase one of a resiliency project. It's about a $100 million project with 63 projects throughout the city. We will harden 3,000 poles, meaning we'll replace old poles with new ones that are wind resistant up to 140 mile an hour. So there's that. We are working on a GRIP project, which is a large transmission line that runs across the lake into our Michoud Front Street facility to make sure we have stronger transmission coming into the city. That's about a $124 million project, and we were actually able to get $55 million of a federal grant to offset that cost. And then finally, just from a day-to-day perspective, we're installing smart networks, self-healing networks that are smart networks all over the city. And what that does is it isolates a fault and it restores customers on either side of that fault, so you get a lot fewer customers that are out. And then finally, and you may see this week, drones all over certain parts of the city. We're flying lines that are hard to reach and identifying problems and fixing them before they create outages. And we understand that those sorts of things, those attract businesses. Businesses need reliable, resilient power. They don't want to move to a hurricane zone without it. We use that in our marketing approach when our economic development group is meeting with businesses. And we also tout the fact that we do have some of the lowest rates in the country. We're 23% below the national average, and people always want to pay less for power if they can. So we use that in our economic development pursuits.
All right. And this is phase one. How many phases are there?
Well, we hope there are several. We initially sought $1 billion. The council came to us after Hurricane Ida and said, look, give us a plan to make our system stronger. We have an older system, and we proposed a $1 billion plan. This is phase one, and we'll be submitting a phase two at the end of this year for them to consider.
All right. Thank you very much. Sure. This is in finance for Amanda. A city's recovery is powered by investment. So from a banking perspective, how did the financial community rally to help businesses, big and small, get back on their feet? And what does the current climate of business banking tell us about the sustained economic health of New Orleans?
So the regional banks in the area, such as Hancock Whitney, we had true investment in the communities most impacted by Katrina. We knew our role was to be more than just lenders. We needed to be partners, leaders, and an integral part of the support and recovery system. We listened to our clients. We made it our mission to truly understand the impact the storm had on our business owners and identify ways we could help them recover on an individualized level. It was very personal for us. We took it personal. We took the recovery personal. We made modifications to existing loans. We offered deferrals when we could. We waived fees. We created programs to help bridge the gap between receipt of insurance proceeds, and we also modified or streamlined our construction process. That's just a few things that we did. There's many, many more things than that. We visited our businesses, their homes. Again, we listened to their story, what their plan was. We understood and built bonds with clients at that time that are still strong today. As I look forward to business banking now, the business banking climate is stronger than ever. We have diverse, thriving businesses that are supported by our communities and our local banks like Hancock Whitney. We've diversified our community. We've strengthened our financial institutions and built business community that is stronger than it was 20 years ago. While we consistently look for sound opportunities to lend money to businesses that are continuing to grow, banking is much more than that. Like, we're not just looking to lend money, we're looking to do the whole relationship with the client, whether that's help them with the deposit relationships or loans, their merchant services, investments, partnering them with SBA, LSDBC, making sure that we're here to help our businesses that have developed and grown over the last 20 years continue to stay strong. We remember how important the relationships were for our clients during the aftermath of Katrina. And because of that commitment, to our community, we have not changed. We continue to listen to our clients, build programs that work for them, and share our knowledge and resources to keep them successful. Just the words.
Thank you very much. Another targeted question for Emily this time: culture and community. So how have our signature cultural events, and there are many of them, evolved not only to drive our vital tourism economy, but also to more intentionally serve and celebrate the local artists and communities that are the true soul of the city?
Yeah, I think, there was a clear shift for sure. And there was a fear as we look to rebuild the city about the economic prosperity, the outlook, the health and wellness of our creative community. And that, continues to be a major point of focus. I think we would all agree, part of the reason that we're here in the city is because the arts and culture make this such a special place to live. It's deeply a part of who we are as a city and a community, and I think why we capture the imagination of the globe. So it's critical that, we safeguard that. And I think, I can speak maybe not for the industry, but particularly for French Quarter Festival, the first 20 years of our evolution, yes, we are here to celebrate our unique local culture and to bring our community together, allow them to participate in these wonderful celebrations, and also do it in a way that intentionally drives economic opportunity for the French Quarter neighborhood and the city of New Orleans. I think post-Katrina, we had to think more deeply about our culture creators and not just about what we do and how we celebrate, but how we operate, who we're showcasing, how we function as a business and a nonprofit, and be a lot more intentional about, how we are operating. So I think some examples of that are, I think you see that reflected in the musical programming. We've certainly diversified the genres and wanted to make sure that we're really truly reflecting how our cultural landscape continues to evolve, but also thinking about being a leader in making sure to be the vanguard and fair wages and setting the standard for so many musicians who make a living through live music. It used to be in 1984, those musicians were donating their time, and now we do a lot to raise money from civic-minded organizations to make sure that we are ahead of the curve in terms of how our local working musicians are compensated. You can also look at the food at the festival. Yes, it's delicious. It has to be. That's a part of who we are. But we're very mindful and intentional about who those businesses are and thinking about the chefs and the individual family-owned restaurants that have an opportunity to showcase and market their business, but also have, an incredible revenue opportunity. We drive almost $4 million in direct sales for food vendors. That doesn't go to the French Quarter Festival, that goes directly to those 70 small businesses that are operating. And I think you can think about the economic impact of that. We drive over $320 million of annual economic impact for the city of New Orleans and support 2,800 jobs every year. But again, we want to be really smart about how we're doing that, and we want to be culturally sustaining as well as environmentally sustaining. So I think thinking about, again, what is our purpose? It really is to uplift and sustain our cultural economy. I think that's reflected on the stages and on your plates, but also behind the scenes. We've made a concerted shift to divert 60% of festival waste away from landfills, which is not an inexpensive way to run a free festival, but something that we feel is critically important, being on the Mississippi River and on the Gulf Coast in terms of making sure that we're eliminating plastic waste and things that can make big, large gatherings more environmentally and culturally sustaining. And I think also a big part of, how we have doubled down on our mission is making sure that the event stays free and welcoming not only to our global visitors, but also for the people who live here to participate in our culture and do it in a way that's accessible for everybody. So adding things like ASL interpreters, sensory inclusiveness, mobility inclusiveness. So I think we are continuously striving to make improvements in making sure that these events are not just joyful celebrations, but they're reinvesting back in the city of New Orleans and our creative culture.
But thank you very much. So, James, and I think you touched on some of this earlier, but Katrina was a wake-up call for about our vulnerability. How has our approach to coastal restoration changed in the last 20 years? And how does the work your coalition does serve as our first and most critical line of defense to protect everything we've rebuilt?
Yeah, I like to think we've become a lot more strategic in Louisiana. I think a lot better organized, and we think about systems that work together rather than let's build a levee here, let's restore a marsh here. There's much more cohesiveness to it, which I think can only make it more effective. And I think also there's been more like a broader interest from other organizations that we can collaborate and work together and accomplish more. There's certainly been more interest, more investment by companies, by corporations who want to be part of this. We see restaurants invested in it now. We see things like our oyster shell recycling program, where shells that used to be squandered by going to a landfill are now going back into the water, where they can help slow the rate of erosion significantly. They also support our fisheries, so it's things working together. And so that has been really effective. It's been much easier to communicate with people. We have more people on board. We have schools, who study coastal land loss now, and they study what they can do about it. There are institutions like the River Model up in Baton Rouge, where you can see the research as it's occurring. So I think the public knows much more about it now. We're better informed, and I think we're also taking more decisive action. Also, we have a lot more money behind it now. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill was a tragedy, obviously, but that resulted in a significant penalty for the companies that were involved. And that money has been dedicated to coastal restoration in Louisiana. So, it's one thing to have a plan, to have really a great plan, but if you can't fund it, you can't do much. So we got all that money, and as long as it is put to good use, we can accomplish a lot. I will say we need more, because that money does run out eventually, and coastal land loss is not going to stop happening. So it is an ongoing thing that we'll have to continue to work on. So we do need people to continue to be involved. There are lots of ways for them to do it. So a lot of good things on the horizon, and a lot of good things that have happened already.
All right. Thanks, James.
Yeah.
So, Rebecca, environment and public space. Can you talk about how City Park was reimagined not just as a beautiful space, but as a more sustainable and essential piece of green infrastructure vital to our city's health and future resilience?
Yes, so following Hurricane Katrina, City Park underwent a rebuilding effort not that different from the rest of the city. It had to begin with, City Park took on 8 feet of water, lost thousands of trees, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Many of you who were here and experienced the park, not just City Park, everything died for a long period of time. So it took time to bring that back. And it was beneficial because City Park had passed a master plan in 2005 before Hurricane Katrina hit. So in March of 2005, the park had put together a plan to prepare for the tricentennial. It was called City Park 2018, and they had a plan in place already. So again, similar to the rest of the city, they had to start with basic cleanup and then think about financial stability. City Park is still today largely self-funded. Very little government money comes into City Park. So they needed to focus, the park needed to focus on revenue-generating facilities within the park. Many of the wonderful things you see in City Park today, especially on the south side, were the result of investment in the park after Katrina, and they were allowed the park to start generating some revenue to support itself. But it also built back smarter, the same way a lot of places in the city did, started to think about how can the park, again, serve as a sponge, serve as a stormwater management aid in the community. But I will say City Park, even 20 years later, we still have work to do in this area. We can always do more in our green spaces as we look at improving our lagoon system. Lagoons are a beautiful element in City Park, but they serve a function of holding rainwater. And the longer they can hold the rainwater, the pressure eases off of our drainage system. The surrounding neighborhoods can utilize the drainage system easier. And water stays in the park a little bit longer. So the more design elements we can put in place to encourage that kind of, again, I call it the green sponge, but the more we can encourage that inside the park, the better. And City Park will continue to do that. But I would say after Katrina, there was an effort like the rest of the city to come back smarter.
All right. Thank you. So, Sonny, in terms of human capital and the future, how has the post-Katrina landscape shaped your mission to build a new generation of male leaders? And what does their success tell us about the city's social recovery?
Yes, thank you. I think, before Katrina, I remember the city was hot. I mean, it was just hot and I'm talking about crime. And a lot of it was boys, right? It was teenagers, it was young men that were in trouble. And I remember post-Katrina seeing on the news that there was a boy that had unfortunately murdered another boy. And, I said, we have to do something about this, or meaning me and the group of friends that I had, to really support so that we get them on the preventative side, right? And so we got 5 kids and we started working with them, and it just sort of grew and grew and grew. And we formed our logic model and really invest in the most vulnerable boys in the city. And I'm talking about boys who have lost their fathers to violence and long-term incarceration, right? Not to take anything away from other boys that need that support, or girls, but I know boys, and so, that's what we wanted to invest in. Unfortunately, a lot of kids lost their sense of community, obviously, during Katrina. They had their friends in their neighborhoods, they had the bus that picked them up, or they had their routine. And post-Katrina, given that the change in the education system, they lost a lot of that, right? They lost a lot of their friends they had. Some of them lost families, a lot of them displaced. And so at Son of a Saint specifically, we were able to create a community for them that was past just their neighborhood or school or even extracurricular. But it's really a 24/7, deal to support them. And so far, Son of a Saint community in particular, I think we've been able to create that. And our boys are becoming leaders, and they're sharing what their knowledge, what they gained from Son of a Saint with their friends, right? Having a young man that just graduated West Point is a huge example of what our mentors and our supporters have done for us, but not just him, but boys going to trade school and that are becoming great fathers, right? Our boys at the time during Katrina were probably, 4 years old, some not born yet. And, their mothers, or parents were young at the time, but we are, I think, sharing what true possibility is for young men in our community. And we tell our boys all the time, we need them to be able to take care of themselves first, right? Take care of their immediate family, take care of their community, and plant seeds that they'll never be able to see grow, or they'll never sit under, right? And I mean, that's the true meaning and value of being a man and being a leader in our community. And I just think we need every opportunity to bring good men into the world. That's what we're going to do. And I think that's what Son of a Saint has done, his community has done for us, and other organizations that are mentoring young men specifically.
Yeah. So you took a hit not only with the boys, but with the mentors as well.
Yeah.
So how did that work?
Well, with mentors and just recruiting the mentors.
Was their approach different than just recruiting them, and did they have a different approach to the situation that the boys
were? There's a lot more group mentoring happening now versus the individual mentoring. And so that's what we're finding, and we've created opportunity for, 2 or 3 males to take on a few kids. If one of them misses a sports event or a recital or something, there's another one that can step up. And so that's what's happening actually nationally, is a lot of group activities. We put on roughly 40 activities a month for our boys, but we have full-time mental health specialists, education coordinators. And so what I will say is that especially with the mental health piece, has been extremely important for us. We employ about 4 mental health specialists, but those mentors are not fully equipped to take on all of the young men's problems, right? I mean, we want them to show up for the activity and provide some guidance, but the boys specifically we're dealing with have so much trauma, so much things going on with them that they need support from our team. And so our case team is actually first, even prior, to the family before even the mentor is. But it's holistic process. But I say our stories that we see, there's so much good going on for young people in general. I mean, girls as well. And we want to promote that and promote all these wins that they have on a daily basis, because it's not all bad. It is good, and we need to share that.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, my hat's off to you, because, I was with Sonny when this whole thing started.
Very first event.
Yeah. The way this thing has grown, I mean, you see Son of a Sight everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's, my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
It's just amazing. So let's look forward to the next 20 years. So, and this is a group question for all of the panelists. And we're going to start with you again.
Okay.
So we've talked about the incredible progress of the last 2 decades. Now, looking ahead to the next 20, what is the most important lesson from our recovery that we must carry forward to ensure New Orleans continues to build more equitable and sustainable future?
So Damon, I think for Entergy, we need to continue to be very proactive about making our system harder and more resilient. Because we know that storms aren't going anywhere. They're going to continue to come. And you well know that...
Get worse.
Yeah, they're going to get worse. They're more frequent and they're stronger. And we're seeing that in our data. I was looking at a stat just the other day, which just kind of confirmed that. There have been 9 Category 4 or 5 hurricanes that hit the U.S. mainland over the past 50 years. 6 of those hit within the last 5, and 2 of those hit the Louisiana coastline. So we cannot let up. If we have a harder, more resilient system, that means people, we get power back on quicker, or we don't lose power. That means people don't have to evacuate. And frankly, most of our population can't afford to evacuate. It's about $1,200 average to evacuate. That's a lot of money. That's a lot for people to afford. So it's very important that we make sure that they don't have to, because the power will be back on quicker. And frankly, it's a lot cheaper to put a pole in on a beautiful blue sky day like we have today than to put it in after a hurricane. It's 3 times more expensive. So we have to be proactive in that respect. And having a harder system, it just makes our city more attractive to businesses and more attractive to residents, which we want to attract both.
All right. Madam.
Well, I'm going to leave it to my colleagues on the right and the left to take care of the infrastructure and the coastal protection. But I would advocate for, I think we learned a lot of lessons, and we're still needing to make improvements in terms of our education system. I think young people, absolutely the talent that came to the city of New Orleans over the last 20 years was critical, and sort of joining our local community in terms of accelerating some really important initiatives, whether it be education, economy, or otherwise. And I think in order to sustain and attract talent, that is critical. So I think that we need to double down on making sure that our public school system has security and is well-funded, and that's something that is going to pay dividends into the future. And I would also say that we know that communities where arts and culture, free access to public art and culture, build stronger communities, and that is very much a part of a holistic look at wellness, community connections, and just the vibrancy of our local communities. So continue to go out and enjoy some live local music, patronize the arts, and enjoy the diversity and the depth and the richness of the creative community that we have here.
Mark? James?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Katrina laid bare is the fact that levees alone cannot protect us here. And, even though we may not be able to walk out of our back door or our front door and see the Gulf right there, it is right there, and it's becoming closer all the time, right? So we need to act with urgency, and we need to recognize that those coastal wetlands, what is between us and the open water, is a part of our hurricane protection. And so we really have to prioritize restoring it as soon as possible. We have the science to do it. We know how to do it. And so we really need to just put those plans into action. And there are lots of ways for people to do that. I mentioned earlier, people can eat oysters or recycle oyster shell. They can volunteer with an organization like mine. We could plant trees and grasses, We could go out into the marsh and actually build an oyster reef. You catch a ride on a boat. It's a lot of fun. But there are also small ways to do it. People can go to community meetings. They can go to public meetings and participate in the state's coastal master plan process, and they can tell people what is important to them, what kind of projects they want to see where they live. And so it's important for people to be engaged, I think, more than anything. And that's the way that we will have the best possible outcomes for all of us in South Louisiana. It's not a bipartisan issue. Everybody wants to see South Louisiana prosper, and we want to see it to continue to exist. So we should all be working together to make that happen.
I think lessons learned from a park green space standpoint would be similar to the other panelists. The investments in the future need to take into account our role in stormwater management. So as we change landscapes or build projects in City Park, we need to think about how we're building them and how we can elevate our role in stormwater management. Parks are just ripe for that kind of engagement. They're ripe for it. And so, but we have to be intentional about it, right? You have to make sure you have successional trees, not old oaks and brand new baby oaks. You have to have successional trees. You have to build parking lots that aren't just asphalt, right? There's things you can do in a park to really promote the stormwater management aspect. And I think for the next 20 years, that's what you'll see happen in City Park. From sort of a broader perspective, as someone who was here, I think I have a good friend who says all of us are stronger and smarter than any one of us. And I think we saw that in Katrina, after Katrina, and our sense of, I think a lesson learned would be, let's not lose that sense of community and sort of determination that we had and that you gain in face of adversity. And I would also hope that we don't shy away from learning from it and let those lessons be catalysts to raise the bar for New Orleanians all the time, right? Always be thinking about how we can do better and grow, and again, raise the bar for ourselves.
I'll piggyback off of that because you are absolutely correct about community. Son of a Saint, we were born out of in-kind support and partnership. We had no money, and we were a nonprofit, and we had to figure it out. So we got 1,000 no's, we got a lot of yeses too, but we had to go knock on doors and ask businesses and other nonprofits to help support us, right? From transportation to food, you name it. And as I look on this stage, I mean, there are a lot of partners here that we have and people that our boys could learn from in programs. I mean, Hancock Whitney, who we bank with, and financial literacy for our boys and getting them accounts and things like that, going to City Park and learning about the things that you just talked about, but even just being in nature, right? And having those opportunities for our mentors in coastal restoration.
We got to talk.
Yeah, we will, absolutely. And obviously, French Quarter Festival and everything, all the arts and the music and things that can present themselves to our boys and their families. And obviously, Entergy has been a great supporter of ours for a long time. And so when you ask what could we continue, I think it is this partnership and looking for opportunities, because as we're on stage, we're probably going to follow up, post this, and provide opportunities for our youth.
All right.
I agree with everything. That's part of what I was going to say, is not forgetting our commitment to community and the we all came together and did our part to make sure that our city was stronger and better. From a banking perspective, I'll say, we need to remember how important technology was and how important that became and still is, and continue investing in that and making sure that from a banking perspective, our clients are able to stay engaged with their bank and their banker in any catastrophe that may happen. And also, Sonny mentioned financial literacy, reinvesting in the community as a corporate partner and bringing to those that need our resources.
Well, I tell you, that's some great insight from every one of you, and I thank you all for your time and the information that you have provided for all of us today. Got a lot of great information about our culture and the cultural economy, the things that our Entergy is doing to prepare us for the future, how we're addressing our kids and the male leadership, to some degree, our banking and financial concerns, and of course, coastal restoration, which is so important to all of us because it is a huge issue. And even with what we're doing to address it to some degree, it's still probably not enough. So I thank you all, each and every one of you, for your insight and your time today. The story of New Orleans is definitely one of resilience. Our greatest strength isn't just in our levees or our infrastructure, but in our people. So thank you all for joining us. I want to thank once again Entergy for their support of this event. We really appreciate it. And on behalf of NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, I'd like to thank once again our panelists, community partners who helped make today possible.